The first week was supposed to feel like a dream. That's what everyone tells you. You make it to the WNBA, you survive the draft, you put on the jersey, and suddenly you're living the life you worked for since you were a kid. And for a moment, that part was true. The lights were brighter, the arenas felt bigger, my name sounded different when it echoed through a professional building. But what nobody prepares you for is how fast the dream starts testing you. It didn't happen slowly. It didn't wait for me to settle in. The league didn't ease me into anything. From the very first practice, I felt it, the speed, the strength, the confidence of players who had already survived seasons I hadn't even lived yet. Every drill felt sharper, every mistake felt louder. There was no space to breathe, no time to process, just expectation after expectation stacked on top of each other. I remember walking onto the court that first day thinking I was ready. I had confidence, I had momentum, I had people telling me I belonged here. And then the ball went up. And within minutes, I realized something uncomfortable. This wasn't college anymore, and talent alone wasn't going to protect me. The contact came faster than I expected. Screens hit harder. Defenders didn't back up. They stepped into me, challenged me, tested me. Not with words, with pressure. The kind that doesn't show up in highlights but lives in every possession. It felt like the game was asking a question over and over again. Can you handle this? And the scary part was I didn't know the answer yet. By the end of that first practice, my body was exhausted in a way I hadn't felt before. Not tired, drained, like every movement cost more than it used to. I sat on the bench afterward, breathing heavy, watching veterans move like this was normal, like this was just another day at work. And that's when it hit me. They weren't surviving this league. They were comfortable in it. I went home that night, replaying everything in my head, the plays I was late on, the moments I hesitated, the looks I missed. And for the first time in a long time, confidence didn't come automatically. I had to fight for it. I had to remind myself that being uncomfortable didn't mean I didn't belong, but that voice wasn't as loud as I wanted it to be. The second day didn't get easier. Neither did the third. By midweek, my body felt like it had aged years. Every muscle reminded me that this league demands payment for every minute you spend on the floor. Practices were intense. Film sessions were detailed. Mistakes didn't disappear overnight. They followed you. Coaches noticed everything. Teammates noticed everything. And when you're new, you feel like every misstep confirms a doubt you're trying to silence. There was a moment during that first week when I stood at the free throw line, crowd noise humming in the background, and realized something that stopped me cold. I had never felt pressure like this before. Not because of expectations from fans, not because of media, but because the margin for error was suddenly razor thin. In college, you could recover from a bad possession. Here, one hesitation could cost you minutes. One mistake could change how you were seen. And that awareness sat heavy on my shoulders every time I stepped on the floor. The WNBA didn't just challenge my game, it challenged my identity. I wasn't just proving I could score or pass or shoot anymore. I was proving I could endure, that I could learn fast enough, that I could stay confident while everything around me moved faster than my comfort zone. And somewhere during that first week, between sore legs, quiet locker rooms, and long nights replaying film, I realized the truth no one ever says out loud. The WNBA doesn't welcome you gently. It hits you immediately to see if you'll stay standing. And that was only the beginning. By the middle of that first week, the excitement had completely faded. What replaced it wasn't fear exactly. It was awareness. The kind that makes you notice everything at once. The tone of a coach's voice, the pause before your name is called, the difference between encouragement and evaluation. I started realizing that every practice wasn't just practice. It was an audition that never stopped. Mistakes felt different here. In college, a bad possession was just a moment. In the WNBA, it felt like a statement. One late rotation, and you could feel eyes on you. One rush shot, and you wondered if you'd earned another chance. Nobody yelled. Nobody overreacted. And somehow, that silence carried more weight than any criticism ever could. I began questioning small things I'd never questioned before. Should I take that shot? Should I pass here? Am I moving too fast or not fast enough? That hesitation was new, and it scared me more than the physicality. Because once doubt sneaks in, it doesn't announce itself. It just quietly sits in the background, waiting for the wrong moment to speak up. There was a play during one of those early practices where I hesitated for half a second, just long enough for a defender to close the gap. The window was gone. The coach blew the whistle and reset the drill without saying a word. But I knew, I felt it in my chest. That half second wasn't about basketball. It was about confidence. Later that day, during film, the same clip came up. Nobody singled me out. Nobody needed to. The screen froze. The spacing was off. The decision was late. And I sat there knowing exactly what I was seeing, the difference between surviving and belonging. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying moments I couldn't change. The noise from the day finally caught up with me. My body hurt, but my mind hurt more. Because this was the first time I wondered something I had never seriously asked before. What if I'm not ready yet? Not permanently, not forever. Just right now, That question doesn't feel dramatic when it enters your head. It feels quiet, honest, and dangerous. Because if you let it grow, it can shrink you faster than any defender ever could. The next morning, I walked into the gym early again, not to prove anything, but to regain control. I shot alone in silence, focusing on rhythm, on repetition, on the parts of the game that had always felt like home. And in those quiet minutes, I realized something important. The league wasn't trying to break me. It was trying to expose what I leaned on when things stopped being comfortable. Talent, that wasn't enough anymore. Confidence, it had to be rebuilt daily. Preparation, that's where survival lived. The WNBA wasn't hitting me harder because I was weak. It was hitting me harder because that's what this level demands from everyone. Still knowing that didn't make it easier, because understanding pressure doesn't remove it. It just makes you responsible for how you respond. And by the end of that first week, I understood something that changed how I saw everything moving forward. The real challenge wasn't keeping up physically. It was learning how to stay mentally present when everything inside you wants relief. And the hardest part, by the end of that first week, the hardest part wasn't the games or the practices. It was the quiet moments in between. The moments when nobody was watching, when there was no ball in my hands, no play to focus on, no noise to hide behind. That's when the questions got louder. I started noticing how different everything felt off the court, how conversations stopped when I walked into a room, how veterans moved with an ease I hadn't earned yet, not because they didn't respect me, but because respect here doesn't come with your name, it comes with time, and time was something I didn't have enough of yet. There was a night after a game when I sat alone in the locker room longer than usual, my jersey still on, sweat drying slowly, the room emptying one by one. I could hear laughter down the hall, teammates heading out together, routines already formed without me. And for the first time that week, I didn't feel tired from basketball. I felt tired from trying to belong. That feeling is hard to explain unless you've lived it. You're surrounded by people, yet you feel invisible. You're part of a team, yet you feel like an outsider. You're living your dream, yet you're wondering why it feels heavier than you imagined. I checked my phone that night, scrolling past messages from fans, posts from media, opinions from people who thought they understood what my life looked like. Everyone had something to say. Everyone had expectations. And none of them knew how quiet it felt when the day finally ended. That's when I realized how lonely the first week had been, not because anyone pushed me away, but because this league doesn't slow down to make you comfortable. It assumes you're ready to stand on your own. And standing on your own for the first time at this level is terrifying. I started replaying moments from the week, not just on the court, but in my head. The hesitation before a shot, the second guessing after a mistake. The way confidence doesn't disappear all at once, it leaks out slowly, one unanswered doubt at a time. I had never been afraid of hard work. I had never been afraid of competition. But I was learning that pressure hits differently when you care deeply and don't yet know where you fit. That first week didn't make me want to quit, but it did force me to confront something I had avoided my whole career. Belief isn't automatic at this level. You don't borrow it from past success. You don't inherit it from hype. You rebuild it possession by possession, day by day, often in silence. And as I sat there alone, I understood something that changed how I approached everything afterward. The WNBA wasn't asking if I could play. It was asking if I could stay grounded when I didn't feel secure. And that question was only going to get harder from here. Somewhere between exhaustion and acceptance, something inside me started to settle. Not in a comforting way, but in a grounding one. I stopped waiting for the week to get easier and started asking a different question. What if this is exactly how it's supposed to feel? What if the discomfort wasn't a sign that I didn't belong, but proof that I was standing at the edge of growth? I began paying closer attention, not just to my own mistakes, but to how the veterans moved through the same pressure. They weren't louder, they weren't rushing, they weren't trying to prove anything. They trusted the work they'd already put in. And that's when it clicked. Confidence at this level doesn't come from believing you're special. It comes from knowing you've prepared enough to survive the moments when you don't feel special at all. I started simplifying everything, one read at a time, one possession at a time. I stopped trying to win every moment and focused on being present in it. If I missed a shot, I ran back harder. If I hesitated, I made the next decision faster. I wasn't chasing perfection anymore. I was chasing steadiness. The pressure didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It stopped feeling like something pressing down on me and started feeling like something sharpening me. I realized that the league wasn't testing my talent, it was testing my patience. My ability to stay composed when nothing felt settled, My willingness to keep showing up even when confidence felt fragile. There was a practice near the end of that first week where things finally slowed down just a little, not because the game changed, but because I did. I trusted my instincts again. I moved without forcing, and for a brief stretch, everything felt honest. Not easy, just real. That moment didn't make headlines. Nobody celebrated it. But it mattered more than any early success could have, because it showed me that I didn't need the league to soften for me. I needed to harden my focus without hardening my heart. The WNBA hit me harder than I expected, yes. But it also showed me something I hadn't fully understood before. Pressure isn't meant to crush you. It's meant to reveal who you are when comfort disappears. And by the end of that first week, I wasn't fearless. I wasn't confident in everything yet, but I was still standing, still learning, still here. And that meant I was ready for whatever came next.